So, though, seriously, what is this thing that you sent me to at the very top here?
Uh-oh, what did I do?
You linked up this Thorium browser.
Listen, man, the internet said to. I didn't.
Okay.
Why?
Have you looked at the web page?
I have.
Okay.
Is it a virus?
Nope.
Not yet.
Did they create this on a phone?
Oh, yeah, probably. Oh. Why does it? Okay, it did not. No, they did something. I swear it didn't look like this.
I don't know, but I'm looking at that and I'm like, wow.
No, it did. It did look like that.
But very, very, like,
why?
I don't know. Maybe a tablet. Tablet would be all right if you had it in portrait mode.
Yeah, but I do think, it's very, very much.
It's a very plain
website feel to
too, in a way.
See, but I feel like that's a good thing, right? Because they're concentrating on the project.
Coming up in this episode, Ubuntober, we keep the IPs safe, cryptic greetings, some feedback, and we get double focused. Hello and welcome to Linux User Space. I'm Dan.
And I'm Leo.
All right. Hey, Leo.
Well, hello.
So, for Spooky Month, we're both running Ubuntu, or at least some variety thereof. Yeah, we're kind of we're in that camp, right? But
yeah,
I know I made a choice for test out XFCE because we're doing that for the entire month.
Yeah, you did a double whammy. You played it smart. I could have totally done this.
Yep, and it just got released, so I mean, you can't get it much fresher than that, right? So I feel like it's a good choice. I had another mission, so I'm doing like maybe 3 things at the same time with this.
Of course.
So I mean, for one of my other hats in Ubuntu, I'm doing some research on some things, and so I did the minimal install. Minimal. Is it minimal? I don't know. Anyway, whatever they're calling it. It used to be Ubuntu Core, and then I think now it's Ubuntu Minimal. I think that's what they're calling it now.
Okay.
And so I'm doing that as a test to kind of see what other flavors you're doing, to slim things down as far as...
Your secret shopping. You came into the store and you wanted to check out the experience.
Well, yeah, so it is the experience I'm after, because I could easily look at the manifest and see what's installed and go from there. But I wanted to see what it was like and what sort of obstacles do you bump into anyway. And so we're all friends in the flavor community, so it's like, not really stealing, but, we're...
All right, so you're friends. I get that. That's great.
So we're sharing knowledge.
All right, so spill the tea. Why does Ubuntu suck?
No. No, it doesn't. It doesn't suck. So, so that's what I'm using. I'm using 2310, Ubuntu. Yeah, no, so it's not terrible. They've made some improvements with some things. And I know you're going to bring this up for a different reason on the framework.
Yeah.
And so they've made some improvements on the scaling and stuff and whatnot. And
have they?
I will say, I don't want to be disparaging. It's not on par probably with your Wayland, GNOME experience. So I wish they had a finer scale option, I guess, if you will. Right. So it's not as fractional as I'd like. That's the only dilemma I got.
So it's 2x or 200 and 1x or 100.
Yeah, maybe there was a 1.5 or something like that. Yeah, so it's like halfway, but not as granular as I'd like, I guess, is the
Yeah,
thing.
the 150s is what had gotten me in trouble for a very long time, and I was not happy with the experience. But it wasn't any particular distribution or anything like that. It was just the state of Linux display tech.
Right.
And so I kind of had to deal with it, and the only way to deal with it was to, on the framework, leave it at 1x scale or 100% scaling, which is teeny tiny little
it's small.
And on the
I'm not quite that small, so I'm 1080p on a 14-inch screen, which is okay, but it's not.
I feel
like a little.
I feel like I gotta squint
because I do have to squint.
I've got Endeavor. Well, I've got a 14-inch 10 T450S back here. And, man, I feel like I got to scale it to 125. Maybe that's just because I'm old now.
Like 1.1, 1.2, somewhere in that range, right?
Yeah. Actually, 1.1 would probably be fine. Because on a lot of these installs, I'll do the font scaling to 1.1. And I'm like, that's comfortable. I like that. That's good.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's a great system. Not going to complain about that. I don't want to give too much away on XFCE. Because I'm saving that, and I am doing some traveling here at the end of this week, so I'm really going to have a good chance to test the laptop itself and XFCE.
Right.
So I'm kind of excited for that.
Will Ubuntu explode?
Yeah, I doubt it. I really do. I just I feel like
too stable for that.
Yeah. So
well, when's the last time they had a major, and by major I mean a minor point release upgrade?
Was it? I want to say it was like right around the drop.
It's 4.18, right?
The drop of the LTS, whenever that was, right? So I want to say that's when 4.18 hit, and before that it was 4.16. So
a little over a year and a half ago.
A couple of years usually on a release on those things, and so it's.
We'll actually have a proper answer for you in the XFCE history episode, because there's a good chance that that's exactly what we're going to talk about.
I'm just going by my memory, and that seems about right. I feel like it's really solid, and so a lot of the bugs and stuff have been addressed and whatnot. So they've had Graybird Dark for a few releases now, and that looks really pretty good. I'm just gonna say.
I might catch some flack for this, but there was you sent me a screenshot, and I think Firefox was part of it.
Yep.
And it just fully embraced the Advait theme, and
it's consistent.
I couldn't shake that. I like that theme.
It's not terrible.
Yeah.
And everything is very consistent. Very consistent. A lot of attention to detail there.
Yeah. And I think that's probably why I'm having such a good time, because I ended up on Ubuntu as well, but just regular old Ubuntu.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And and because every release I got to throw it on something just to kind of poke around, and this time it's been a long time since this happened. This time, I didn't trash it.
Good.
This time, I had questions. On the framework, as I mentioned before, the resolution, it's not 4K, but
it's up there.
It's still high DPI, right? And I guess the developer or the art people would, argue with me on the high DPI definition, but it makes things super tiny if it's 1x. So I need scaling. And so the first thing I do when I get a couple of pieces of software installed is to turn on scaling. And my preferred scaling on this framework is 150%. I turned it on, and because the snap of Firefox, I know, is now Wayland by default, that just worked.
Nice.
So
that's nothing wrong with that.
No, everything looked good. Everything was nice and crisp. I could go to any website and things worked.
Cool.
Then I was like, okay, well, what else can I try? And I installed Discord. Discord had also been a situation, an ex-Wayland situation. So when you scale in Wayland,
Yeah, X-Wayland stuff is not the greatest, right? Yeah.
Yeah, non-integer scaling, I believe is what they call
Right.
it. So basically, if it's not 100 or 200 or 300%, things are going to look weird.
Right.
And historically, Discord has been reluctant to upgrade Electron so that it supported Wayland, but apparently they did that.
Okay.
Whoa.
All right.
So Discord's looking good. Discord's nice and crisp. I don't think Telegram has had an issue with this, but...
Well, that's cute, so maybe not.
Yeah. Nice and crisp.
Cool.
And another Electron app that I use all the time, Element, to get into our Matrix channel.
Yeah, sure.
Is nice and crisp. PlexAmp is nice and crisp. I don't...
That's kind of rounding it out there, Leo.
Yeah, it sure is. Thunderbird, where I get our email that you can send us at contact@linuxuserspace.show, is nice and crisp.
Okay.
I mean, all the no maps are there.
Right.
So the terminal looks good. The file explorer looks good. Everything. So
that's good.
The vast majority of the things that I use on a day-to-day look absolutely stunning on Ubuntu 23.10.
Cool.
I cannot say the same for any of the other Ubuntus.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, they're either on X, which you can do scaling, but it's not quite eats up CPU cycles to do so. Or I'm on Plasma, which had a couple extra little
yeah, you have to install another package basically to get into the Wayland and get that. There's like a Plasma Wayland package. Yeah, I don't remember the name of it exactly, but yeah, you install that, and then Wayland is an option when you go to log in.
Yeah.
On Plasma.
So, but the thing about this was, I didn't expect to be surprised about this. I did not expect this to be as good as it was. And because of that, I am enjoying my time on 23.10.
You're making me jealous. You were making me jealous when you were talking about it earlier in the week. And like last week. Look at me over here.
It's too good.
I need more time so I can make sure I got a good backup so that I can switch maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm telling you. So on a 1080p screen, you can cozy up to the scaling too. You do 125, and on a 1080p screen on 14 inches, man, it looks good. It's nice and cozy. The thing about doing this a little bit of scaling, even on a 1080p screen, when you scale up just that quarter step, the fonts look better. They have this sharp crispness to them that you don't get when you're running at 1x. It's crazy.
There's another piece to the reason why I choose to do some scaling there and make it a little bigger, maybe bigger than normal for some people. And that's because this is also a touchscreen. And unless you've got your finger like really sharp, those little buttons are hard to hit. And I don't use that a lot, but I do kind of like to sometimes select different windows quickly.
Yeah.
And maybe, grab the top bar and move them a little bit or something if, I'm just watching a couple of things go on rather than grab the mouse. Because honestly, it is faster. And like if you're just looking to grab a window that's in the background, you just tap it and it's like right there, right?
That's cool.
But yeah, you got to be incredibly accurate when it's like really small like that.
Yeah, well, in honor of Spooky Month, I have bony little pokers.
Yeah.
I also have them the other 11 months of the year.
Yeah.
But it works really good for that particular situation.
Yep.
But, just because I have them doesn't mean I want to have to use them in an extremely accurate kind of way. So scaling up is such...
It's a good reason, yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing to do. And at least on GNOME, and I know just ever so slightly behind them is Plasma, we got that.
It's there now,
we actually have that cool fractional scaling. Because 200% on Framework is just absolutely way too much. Those things are just, too big.
Yeah.
Well, too big. It feels like, how you're playing with Lego and you're putting those together, but then for some reason in the batch of Lego, there's like one of those Dualpo or Duplo or whatever, the kid ones.
Yeah.
The really tiny baby kid ones. And you're like, what is... That's how 200% scaling on the Framework feels. It's weird.
Yeah.
150, right in the middle. That's the answer, I think.
Yep. So,
but never thought I'd say it. But here I am again on Ubuntu proper.
That's
I'm loving it.
Well, and like before all of that, I did some Ubuntu testing and whatnot too. So I've had a couple rounds of a couple of different flavors of Ubuntu on the 23.10 release, and things are looking pretty good for most of the flavors. I feel like obviously it's only 3 out of. Yes, there's so many now.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, things are looking good in time to be ready for the LTS that's coming in April. So
if it's half as good as this, I might find myself on another LTS for a long term.
I'm still on the last one.
Yeah. I would have been had scaling been there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I know, and now this happens to me every time, Leo. Every time, I'm just gonna hang out here for 2 years. I'm gonna hang out on the LTS, and then we get to that final release, that final interim release before the next LTS, and I'm like, I gotta go now.
Yeah, you can't wait.
We're just like one cycle too long. That's it.
Because this is 2404 RC1. I feel like this is the one we're finalizing the things. There's not going to be much change between this and
Probably
the
not.
LTS.
Yeah, a little bit. Well,
nobody likes to shake the boat. This is
stay tuned.
Okay.
I think
you've got insider knowledge.
Yeah,
I feel
we had a big developer meeting for Ubuntu, and I think there's some things in the works. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Well, there's, I think between now and then, there's going to be about a few episodes of Linux User Space that'll be coming out about the time that we're wrapping up the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So, I mean, go check the @Ubuntu official Twitter or X or Zitter or whatever we're calling that this week. Go check that out. There's a link to the developers meeting that we had. So. There's all the notes are there.
Stay tuned. I'm going to get Dan to digest those notes and tell us all the juicy bits next episode.
All right. Sounds good.
So Google has decided that they're going to be the good guys.
Google, our savior.
Don't worry. They already saved us with the Topics API that everybody was automatically opted into, whether you liked it or not. I like how Topics was kind of like, yes, I want it. Yes, I also want it. That was the choice you were given.
Yeah. Please, I'll take it. Yeah, no, you got very little choice with that.
Yeah, I don't like it, but it's yes, I want it, or I don't like it, but I'll take it. Those were the choices that you really kind of got. But that's kind of behind us, and the unfortunate thing about that is that whatever Google says kind of goes, because they have 85-90% of the market.
They've certainly got enough of it to have some large sway.
Yeah, exactly. So they did, however, come up with something that I find it hard to disagree with.
Oh, okay, the concept is good. Let's put it that way.
I think we're going to converge here at the end of this. Google Chrome's IP protection. Okay, this is basically Google Chrome taking your request to any website and proxying it once or twice through their own servers so that they can obfuscate the source of the request to the server that receives it. So if I go to Ars Technica, it just looks like a request from Google. And if Ars decides they want to dig real hard and they peel that back one layer, they'll just find another Google server back behind there. But behind there will be me. And my IP will effectively be obfuscated to anybody that is trying to look on Ars's end. So what do you think? What do you think, Dan? It's a good thing, right? Because it bolsters my privacy. It ensures that no one knows it is me personally going to a website. Google is indeed, in this one, our savior.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I 100% agree. I mean, so conceptually, that sounds nice that they're hiding things for us. However, I feel like they're hoovering up all of the information that is going out there, and even though many of those things are encrypted, is it all and not it's not complete, right? And what's stopping them from trying to decrypt any of it too, right? They could play back the internet for us.
The interesting thing about decryption is that everybody decides for some reason in their minds that decryption can only happen like at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the case, right?
No.
Like anybody that takes any data that is encrypted can in 10 years decide to decrypt that with better hardware, better technology, better, right? So if the data is at rest encrypted, just a matter of time before we can just crack it open like an egg. But nobody thinks about that 10 years in the future.
It's definitely going to take more horsepower than we have today.
Right. But Google, of all the people that could be doing the decrypting in 10 years, Google seems like one of the companies that would be able to just be like, oh, wait, look, 10 years ago, crack.
Yeah, or even if it's like, even if they're rolling it back, 5 years, it helps paint profiles and stuff. So I don't know if that's great.
And I mean, how much have you really changed in the past 5 to 10 years?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's it. I don't know. So I have some hesitation with that. I don't know that they're the best stewards of my traffic, or I don't know that they have that in mind, because let's face it, Google, as we've said several times, is an advertising company. And so they want...
Actually, you said that within the past 24 hours, and I appreciate you for it.
I know. I've said it a few times. Anyway, so yes, that is their primary goal, is to be an advertising company and sell either directly advertising to you, or sell your information to other companies that do advertising so that they can target advertising to you.
So I agree with you there. The thing that really gets me is that we're coming off of the Topics announcement, the Topics API, and real quick refresher on that. Topics API was born of Flock, which we really covered on this show.
Right.
But Topics was the easy version of that basically said Google locally is going to peruse your browsing history and create topics based on what it is that you've browsed. So if you've gone to a lot of sporting websites, like you like the NFL and NBA and cricket and things like that, they're going to put you into a sports category. And then whenever a website asks, hey, how do I advertise to this person? Google's going to be like, hey, sports is one of the things that they like. So the good thing about that, and this is really the devil in the detail kind of thing. This is why I don't like it. Google has positioned this in a way that is good, but, and I think that's all of their technology. It's good, but, and so they have all of this information. They'll give it to advertisers, and advertisers can then target ads to you without having to track you. And Google Chrome, sometime in the future, in the nebulous future, they're going to just kill tracking.
Yeah.
But not yet. Because again, they're an advertiser company,
right.
So they're going to have all these topics based on your browsing history, and they're always gonna. And this is that good little devil in the detail. They're gonna throw in a random topic that doesn't apply to you, into the mix.
Yeah, so
right?
they don't fingerprint you as well, right?
Yeah. So sometimes you'll get non-specific or targeted advertisements to you, but that's because Google is fuzzing a little bit, and that's a good thing.
They're
right?
trying to stretch it a little bit and see what else you'll bite onto.
So the downside to this, though, is that because Chrome is and when I say dominant, I mean dominant browser in the sandbox here, they get to control it. They have created a standard that nobody else but Chrome has agreed on, And they are pushing that forward for 85, 90% of everybody that's using the internet. That is just now the standard.
I know.
And nobody else, not Firefox, not Vivaldi, not Brave, not Safari, not anybody else had much of a say in it. And even if they did have a say, Google could just say, I don't care.
Yeah, we're going to do it anyway, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so they get to control the advertising market. And because of this, that means that Google is going to be the biggest advertiser on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this is why coming in with these, with this focus on it, coming into this IP protection feature, this is why it gives me a bad taste about this. Because not only is Google poised to be well, they already are, but they're going to entrench their stranglehold over advertising on the internet.
Right.
They are also now going to tunnel all of your data through their servers to get to the endpoint. They tried this before, and we talked about it before with AMP, the accelerated mobile pages, where Google would just cache the entire internet.
Yeah.
And then just say, hey, man, don't worry. You don't actually have to go to Ars Technica. You could just go to us and we'll have a cached version.
Yeah, it'd be so much faster for you.
So fast. And your mobile connection sucks. So we got you.
We'll get it. Yeah.
Every single good thing that they have done, just think advertising.
Yep.
How can someone use the information that they're gathering by doing something good and use it for their own monetary gain? And Google is fantastic about this.
They have some great technology. Absolutely.
How can they use mail, something so simple and so mundane and so boring? Oh, just shove a bunch of ads into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're already watching all the conversation.
Yeah. And that's one of that's the other thing, right? Like, I don't think everybody knows. Surely you, listener, nodding your head saying, oh, I knew this. Yeah. No, but Google reads your email.
Yeah, well, I mean, they can. They gave it. You gave it to them.
Right. And so they read your email so they know how to track you better, how to advertise to you better, what emails should end up accidentally in your inbox and which shouldn't, which should go to promotions.
Well, and they... There is some good that comes out of some of the things they do because it's in their best interest, right? So, like, they really cut down on the spam stuff because spam is bogus. They're not getting nobody's getting any benefit out of that.
But that's the good.
That's the good that they're doing, right? And this is kind of like that too with the IP protection. Like,
right.
It's obfuscating things. It's not necessarily security when you do that, by the way. But
the devil's in the details.
They're handling it for you, but for a reason. Yeah, there is a reason behind it.
Right. You don't get a lot of spam. Google has some of the best spam filtering in the world.
And they implement.
I don't even think I should qualify that. I think it is the best.
But they've also raised the standards on the way email is supposed to, happen, right? With DKIM signing and DMARC and all of that stuff to make sure that that spam is pushed down because it makes their reconnaissance, if you will, noisy, and it gets in their way. So that's their goal on that. So same thing here. They just want to make sure that they'll protect your traffic and proxy it for you in a safe manner so that they can analyze it along the way.
That rubs me the wrong way.
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, yeah. You have to find the angle and learn how to defeat it in a different way, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think we both agreed kind of coming into this that the IP protection feature is a good feature, and maybe it's just who's implementing the feature that makes it a little...
Maybe just use a VPN.
That would get the same job done. If you want to see the disdain in our faces, you got to go to the YouTube. You got to check it out on the YouTube.
Boy, I hope it turns out okay, Leo.
Well, you know what? There's always a complication. There's always a complication. And most of the time, it's my fault.
This one's mine. This one's mine? Well, maybe my equipment's, but probably my fault for not maintaining it well.
Well, okay, look. You ended up with a bulging battery, a spicy pillow, if you will.
Yeah, this little guy right here. Take a look at that.
I don't feel like that's anybody's fault.
That guy.
That just... Sometimes that happens. So look at Dan's face. Look at it real good. I don't know if it looks good or bad at this point, but
I don't know either. I can't see it either.
Yeah, the joy of using phones to record.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So my normal little camera, like it's got a display on the front side so that I can see what it's doing. Yeah.
You can frame yourself up.
Yeah. At least somewhat
Not
close.
today.
Not today. Nope.
Not today.
Today is not that day.
Well, if you want to know what Dan looks like today, you got to go check it out on the YouTubes.
Yep.
We also have the history shows show up on TILvids. That's a really cool way to get just the history. If that's the only thing that you're interested in, TILvids is a fantastic place to go do that.
TILvids is great, yeah.
And, especially coming off of all of the crap I was saying about Google, right. TILvids, right?
Yeah.
But if you like the show, if you like what we do here, if you like what we talk about, if you like the history bits, if you like the explorations, if you like the Gentoo stuff, the XFCE stuff that's coming up, make sure you visit us over on Patreon, linuxuserspace.show/Patreon, and throw us a buck or two. Yeah. It helps make those history shows better. It helps ease along the XFCE explorations and the Gentoo this and that, and makes those live streams happen.
Yeah, so, absolutely. And we appreciate your support. Absolutely.
But whatever you give, if you give, regardless of if you give.
Yes.
Thanks so much for watching the show, enjoying all the stuff, coming on, following us here, following us there, whatever you do. Thanks for hanging around. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
At the dawn of the internet, IP addresses were abundant. Billions, in fact. A web server could be brought online with one IP address and it would serve one website. Easy. It was a problem, though, and we saw it coming very early on. It wasn't as easy as the nascent internet seemed. We had too many devices, and more coming online every day. One way to combat this was to stop IP address waste by not giving out massive blocks of IP addresses that were used inefficiently and ultimately hoarded. So we got rid of the classful allocation system we'd been using since the early 90s and kept some sets of IP addresses in reserve. Even still, the 4 billion IP addresses we had mathematically allotted to ourselves, 32 bits only goes so far, were still running out, and there was no way around it. IPv6 was an answer, but its adoption was sluggish in the best of times. And if you look hard enough, you can see that it exists. It's being used, but it's far from everywhere, and it was proposed in 1995. There were other answers too, like private IP addressing and network address translation, two things that everybody at home uses behind the scenes. On the server side, there was virtual web hosting. In short, it allows one physical server on one IP address to host many websites as opposed to just serving one. It's about efficiency. But back then, things were simpler to configure. The popular web servers like Apache, IIS, and soon tons of web hosters were doing it. Remember, it's about efficiency. What this means in practice is that website1.com and website2.com could end up pointing to the same IP address. To make all this work, the name of the website was sent along with the HTTP request, which let the server, through the magic of HTTP 1.1, get the user to the right website. This was great up until HTTPS, the secure bigger brother to HTTP, started to really make headway. Formally specified in 2000 with RFC 2818, it slowly grew in popularity over the next decade. Now, all this encryption, the secure part, is good, but the question arose very early. How do you know which site you're trying to connect to when multiple websites live at the same IP address? Because that information in HTTP 1.1 was stored in the part of the handshake that's now encrypted. Enter server name indication in 2003. With this addition to the encryption specification, the website's name was now stored in the front-loaded but unencrypted part of the handshake called the client hello. This meant that servers hosting many websites on a single IP that came into contact with this information could route traffic to the correct website. Firefox and Internet Explorer started supporting this in 2006, and Chrome followed after in 2010. Hooray! It's all solved. Except that it most certainly wasn't. With the rise of advertising and, more importantly, tracking, beginning well before HTTPS ever even got the slightest foothold, SNI would be a huge help to those wanting to see where you're going. That includes your internet and mobile service provider and web hosting services whose IP addresses you're interacting with, and anybody with access to the handshake in between. Snoopers and trackers would hardly be deterred by any of this because, remember, the client hello comes before the actual encryption and contains a request for a specific site's certificate. So, of course, the obvious answer is that we have to encrypt the SNI, or the part of the client hello request that contains the server name you want to talk to. But this part wasn't encrypted before specifically because servers needed a way to read the data without decrypting, since there was no way to trade keys prior to the handshake that contained the name of the server. What a conundrum. We had to enlist the help of public key cryptography, the same type extra big nerds like me and Dan would use to encrypt an email with GPG and DNS here. So now, with encrypted SNI, when a DNS server is queried for a server name, the IP address along with the server's public key is sent instead of just the IP address. This allows the user to encrypt the server name before sending. What a great solution! Except it wasn't. It was a stopgap. And more HTTPS was coming. 80% by the year 2020, by the way. All so that we could eventually have ECH, or Encrypted Client Hello, that encrypts the entire handshake, whether or not all of the data is sensitive. Aside from the server name being in the clear before encrypted SNI, the ALPN, or Application Layer Protocol negotiation, was in the clear too. This allowed snoopers to see what type of protocol you were speaking, like email, IRC, or any other number of to-be encrypted protocols. With ECH, though, there are two parts, the inner and outer SNI, with the outer having non-personal information in it, but only enough to facilitate encryption of the inner portion that contains the server name, the protocols, and the other fancy bits. So that brings us to where we are today. Firefox 1.18 and better in 1.19 support this. I believe Chrome 1.15 supports ECH. So now we're in a much better spot with being a secure requester of information. And I mean, I know that whole entire history was just for funsies, but this really does confer a whole lot of privacy on you.
This is good stuff. Yes. Pay attention to the previous history. This is really, really good stuff.
For me and you.
Mm-hmm.
But for large enterprises that use SNI and ALPN to do traffic shaping and blocking, this is going to be a real problem.
Probably.
Yep, it definitely is, because where people could look in.
Yeah, they can't see that application layer stuff that's happening to be able to analyze those things and know what that fingerprint is to be able to shape the traffic and whatnot. Yeah.
There are entire multi 100,000, if not $1,000,000 devices that use ALPN to do traffic shaping and blocking.
I know.
And there are tons of, small time filters, even, that you and I might use for free at home that use SNI to do blocking for domains and things like that exist, only on Cloudflare or, only behind the one IP address that hosts 600 websites. Yeah. It is great from a privacy perspective, and I absolutely love it. But there are downsides to this, and there are going to be a whole lot of people that pay a whole lot of money that are going to be real unhappy with the state of the internet in a little bit.
The far end has to obviously support that too. So I mean, right? So I mean, a lot of the corporate things they're going to take a while to catch up because that's kind of the way corporate stuff works.
Of course. So, but like I mentioned in the history, we're talking. 2022 actually saw the highest at like 83-84% of HTTPS requests over HTTP, which is funny because it kind of petered out there and dipped ever so slightly, still above 80%, but ever so slightly. And in 2022 and now into 2023, we're still looking at approximately 80%. Yeah. So it seems like 80% is going to be about as good as we're going to get.
Maybe, yeah. But so here's the other thing with Firefox. Obviously, 119's got some improvements in this. In it, they made some enhancements there, which I just upgraded to today, just for funsies. But
you better believe it. You know what it's not in? Most everybody's repository as we record this, but as you hear this, it will definitely
It'll be there by then. Yeah,
so
for sure.
It's Tuesday today, everybody.
Right. Yeah. So here's the other thing. The DNS over HTTPS kind of helps you with some of this, but you don't have to use that. Like, so some people, for obvious reasons, want to be able to split their DNS traffic, especially if you're running like you and I probably are. I mean, I've got Pi-hole running here in the house, and I'd rather my traffic go through Pi-hole for
of course,
because then I can have a little more control on it. And so, you can still take part in this, which is the great thing. You don't have to, it's not an all or nothing sort of deal. You don't have to use DOH to be able to, get the features here.
I think that's the really cool thing. You just update your browser and the websites that support ECH are just going to now give you additional protection. I think that's really cool about the web in general. I think this is how the HTTPS rollout was.
Yeah.
Let's Encrypt happened in 2016 and just skyrocketed the amount of traffic that is now encrypted.
Right.
Whether or not that's a good thing, right? Like we were talking about, I think maybe it was on the last live stream.
I think generally speaking, if left to their own devices, a lot of people wouldn't probably bother with securing things, and encryption does secure things, and so then you get lazy with the data that you're sharing potentially, and so then it's just out there in the clear, and that's not good. It's probably good to put some guardrails on things so that people don't make accidental whoopsie doodles. And so like at least your traffic's encrypted in transit. You have a man in the middle sort of thing feeding you, like pulling it in and then manipulating, AI there, manipulating it and sending you some other subliminal message.
Doing the digging on this, Cloudflare has changed what M stands for, but not the meaning.
Right.
M stands for monster.
Monster in the middle.
Monster in the middle.
That's appropriate for Spooky Month now, isn't it?
It kind of is, isn't it? Yeah, the monster in the middle. The monster
Yeah.
Well, that's Google, but...
Well, I mean, I guess, is Cloudflare, kind of some of that too? I mean, you got a lot of different things that they're caching and delivering.
You better believe they're in front of more than half of the websites that you visit on a very regular basis. Yeah, and in some ways, I suppose you could make the argument.
I guess, spoiler alert, I've got some Cloudflare tunnel action stuff happening here for things that Leo and I use.
Yup.
So, but it works, like, in a way, right? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, we haven't been DDoSed yet. That's not an invitation to do so. But
please not.
So I think this is great. I do think ECH is great. I think ESNI and SNI before it. Well, not SNI, I guess. I mean, it worked and it saved people a whole lot of CPU cycles.
More complete package. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, ECH was always where we wanted to be, which is encrypt absolutely everything that could identify or help track or help pinpoint anybody.
Yeah, this is honestly probably the more critical part of the conversation to be encrypting.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Because prior to this, if the domain name that you were going to was exposed, that's bad enough. Just knowing where you're going already proves at least a little bit of intent.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I suppose everybody could imagine a website that they would go to right now there's only one thing you do at a website like that. Do you want everybody knowing that you go to a website like that? Whatever website that is.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
This is where ECH is going to help you out.
That's linuxuserspace.show/onlyfans, right?
Don't tell anybody you go to that website. You just click on the Patreon button and hook it up.
All right. Yeah, fair enough.
So catch these and other great topics as they unfold on our Lemmy instance, because ECH showed up there. Our subreddit showed up there too. And our news channel on Discord, because it definitely showed up there too. Head over to linuxuserspace.show/ and it's right here. Right here. The icons are right above me. If you're just listening to me, then you got to listen to me and
check the show notes.
Linux User Space. Well, yeah, the links are right there. You don't have to type this out. But if you're typing it out, linuxuserspace.show/Lemmy or Reddit or Discord or Mastodon or Telegram or Matrix or Twitch or Twitter or YouTube. Whatever you type in there, it's going to take you somewhere, or OnlyFans.
Yeah, that'll work. Or even malware if you're into the spooky stuff.
Surprise, trick or treat.
Yeah.
You're going to find out if you type that one in.
Yep.
So whatever you click, whatever you type, whatever you do, come hang out.
All right, Leo. This is the favorite part for me on these topic shows, is the feedback portion of it. I really love it when people write in and we can give back and we can have, an asynchronous conversation, but it's a conversation nonetheless.
I mean, we get to bring their spirit onto the show and we get to have a little bit of fun with that, which is really cool.
Yeah, so first up is Stewie on the Gentoo Checkin in episode 405. Question, what are your feelings on Linux swap in general? HDD, hard disk, or SSD, change the equation, or are those cheapo SSDs that have no cache versus real SSDs? Like, how does all that weigh into the equation for you? Do you have an opinion on this, Leo?
I absolutely do.
Okay, I'm listening. I have one too.
I wrote a whole dissertation on this thing, but I think I can sum it up with HDDs. I used swap because in those days I had low RAM and it was not great, but I had it. With SSDs early on, when there were pre really resilient SSDs, I tried to avoid swap as much as I can, but now with newer SSDs that are much, much more resilient and, have it's like hundreds, if not thousands of terabytes of, mean time before failure, whatever it is. I don't worry about it too much. I usually so currently I'll give myself a little bit of swap just in case the application or the system needs it. But I don't give enough swap to do like a full-on hibernate because I've got a lot of memory and I don't want to dedicate that much swap to it. I
agree with that. I don't even know, but in the end, I don't even know that hibernate necessarily saves you a ton of time. That kind of
Right.
goes for most of the operating systems, especially if your storage is going pretty quick. Boot
Yeah.
up times are really kind of short these days. So,
Dude, on the framework, no joke, it is like a 2-second difference. Like if I come up from Hibernate, I save 2 seconds from a full boot.
hardly noticeable. I would just let it go. Just be shutting it down.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, no, I mean, don't even bother with the Hibernate thing. That's my personal opinion. Maybe if you had a hard drive like that could make sense. Hibernate can make sense there potentially. But even then, it's not greatly supported in the Linux kernel. I don't know how much you know. Like, it's not great. So
A bit of a hack.
I would forget about, trying to get enough swap to do the hibernation bit. That's for sure.
What's so weird about that, though, I think it's the Calamaris installer. Don't quote me on that. But has the option, because I saw it on
There
Endeavor.
are options. Like, depending on how the distro has it set up, there are options in a pull-down, drop-down thing.
Right, like no swap, little bit of swap, and then enough for Hibernate swap. So it makes it seem like it is very supported because it's in the installer.
Yeah, I don't know that I do.
Yeah.
So
no, it doesn't.
I can tell you that in Ubuntu we don't have it configured that way. We don't.
Good.
We have no. So we don't even have swap partitions, kind of as a thing. We do.
Oh, swap file.
We do either no swap or swap file. You can pick between those two.
Yeah.
By default, it does swap file. Obviously, the great thing about a swap file is you can grow it, on the fly, right? And you can make it bigger, and that's easy. It's a file. So that's pretty nice. I prefer that. If I'm gonna do my own system, I'm probably gonna pick a swap file. It doesn't need to be huge. I'm really probably, most of the systems I have probably have enough RAM to be able to handle things. I'm only looking if that memory pressure gets up there so that, I don't get the doesn't wipe me out and kill everything.
Where did Firefox go? What?
Right. So, like, swap can help you with that because it adds to your overall RAM from what the system is looking like. You could still get some things that are killed with potentially if it went out of control.
Yeah. If that pressure's that high.
Yeah, but maybe you need it then at that point.
That process was asking for it.
Exactly. See, there you go. So I'm a swap file person. Doesn't need to be huge. I don't really care if it's a hard disk or if it's a SSD. I feel like you're right. The SSDs these days will handle that. And you're not writing to it a lot. Hopefully your RAM is and like everything is tuned well enough that your RAM is handling it. And every once in a while, it's hitting the swap.
So what do you think about so cheaper SSDs versus the ones with say real cache like the Samsung and maybe the Western Digital, the better Western Digital ones versus something, much less expensive for the same amount of for the same amount of storage.
Right, less expensive for that. Yeah, I'm all right. Depending on what my use is, I'm all right with those cheap ones. I've bought some of those. I certainly use those to test different distros. If I don't want to totally wipe out my system, I can swap one of those in there and be good. I haven't really had a lot of problems with those. Like, they tend to just work. But I'm not relying on them the same way either. For my system, like my desktop or something like that, I've actually got some better ones that I paid a little more money for than I feel like. I want to be able to count on it when it's there.
I agree. For me, it tends to be the Western Digital Black.
Yep.
Or the Samsung Evo.
I've got some of those too. Yep, they're both good. I've had a lot of good luck. We talked about the SK Hynix stuff, and I feel like those are usually pretty good.
Seems pretty good, man. So the one that I brought up, I may have been in season 2, maybe in maybe season 3.
And Joe was still here, so maybe season 1.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Okay, so maybe I did that in season 2. But either way, it's full.
But it's still kicking.
But Yeah, and it was I think it was a QLC drive maybe.
Mhm.
So I mean, it
It's not
certainly
the
once you got
best.
past
Yeah.
that, once you got past that halfway point, you really lost the speed that it advertises on the website. So because I mean, it's really fascinating the way that those chips actually work, right? So I mean, back in the day, it was SLC. It was just a single.
Yep.
Yeah,
Single lane.
you charge it or you don't charge it. It is 1 or a 0. But now it is you charge it a quarter, you charge it a halfway, you charge it 3/4, and you have like 4
different
layers
states.
of exactly. And so when you start doubling up and tripling up and quadrupling up on how much data you can store in a single cell,
Right.
that you really start to feel
It's not quite as reliable, so they say.
right, because there was always drift.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Right, but back in the day, it was either nothing or something.
Right.
And if it was anything, then it was on.
Right.
So, data was a little more reliable in the SLC days, but, you wouldn't be seeing 4 terabyte SSDs had we stayed there. We'd probably still be in the 256, 512 range.
Right.
But reliability would be, well, I don't even know about reliability, but definitely data readability would have been there.
And I think some of that comes with, always on systems. Probably you're not going to notice that nearly as much as long as your power supply is good and stable and whatnot. I feel like, you're going to be able to hold those states a lot better. But if you store your drive for any reason or any length of time, you could potentially start to lose, depending on how well the capacitors that are on the drive itself, depending on how well those hold up, you might start to lose the state on some of that stuff. It's extreme, I get it, but it could happen.
Listen, man, you hit that SSD hard enough. I mean, those electrons,
the pixies are going to jump right out of it.
The magic smoke.
Anyway, yeah, so that's my thoughts on those.
So Dominic in Telegram said, I can't remember if it was you and Dan or one of the Late Night Linux podcasts. I'm glad we're in the same group.
Yeah, no kidding. That's some high class territory there.
But when I officially moved to Linux, I was a bit disappointed that all the distros I tried were too similar to Windows, and I was trying to run away from Windows.
That's fair.
Why is it that many themes seem to want to represent Windows when that's the main reason to move to Linux? In fairness, I didn't do much modding when trying out the distros in DE and settled on KDE Plasma because it had some cool tools, KDE Connect, and Endeavor, because I love the Pac-Man animation on updating. I do too, though.
That's pretty great.
But I found XFCE to look very dated, GNOME very similar to Windows, and Plasma just different enough. But before we get into that, there was a little conversation after that, and I think GNOME gets moved out of the running because GNOME is kind of its own thing. So, so I think that a little bit of that got scrubbed.
You could probably sub in Cinnamon, I believe, for the window.
Could.
Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, by a lot.
Yeah.
You could. And I think generally you're right, but I think the crux is when you said why did some themes want to represent Windows when the main reason to move to Linux is to kind of get away from that. I don't think that's the main reason to move to Linux. I don't think it's to get away from the way it looks or feels. I think a lot of times to getting away from Windows means something different to everybody. But to me, when I got away from Windows, or when I tried to get away from Windows, or at least a little bit, was for privacy reasons, security reasons, was for stability reasons, and even speed reasons.
Yeah.
There was a whole lot of speed to be had in Linux that wasn't necessarily available in Windows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it removes some shackles, I feel like, as far as the speed and whatnot. Yeah, and particularly constant frustration in Windows land is updates. I know it just everybody gets hammered up with that, right?
Yeah,
and there's problems.
I was in the middle of a document.
Yeah, but even if not that, like it just all right. How many? How long? Like even if you intentionally try to do the updates, that takes an inordinate amount of time, I feel like. And how many reboots is that going to take too? Yeah, I mean, that's the other question.
my favorite update situation is Windows is like, all right, you got to update. And I'm like, fine,
All right,
I'll update.
let's do it.
And then I update, and then I reboot, and it's like, all right, you got to update.
You got more
I'm like,
updates.
well, I just updated.
Why
What do you
can't
mean?
Do that the last time. Yeah, no, absolutely. And like, I usually, me personally, my systems, when I come into work, that's when I wanna be able to sit down, do my updates, and so that I can just get that out of the way for the day, and not have to revisit that again. And
because it'll bother me.
But then I know it's done, and it's not going to bother me later. With saying, "Hey, you forgot to do your update, buddy." And that goes for Linux as well. Linux, Windows, Mac OS, whatever. I just want to get that pushed aside, get ready to work, and have that out of my way. And I think the speed and the way Linux handles it is pretty good. And
I think so too.
And a lot of it is because you've got a couple of places that you're getting your software from. Typically, you're not gathering it from multiple sources, and so you've only got a couple of places to go to get things up to date, right? Whereas Windows, you've kind of gathered some software from all around potentially. And the same for Mac OS. You've got all those little DMG files that you just keep grabbing and splatting on your system, right?
I just hope on Mac and Windows that they are self-updating and they kind of do it when you click the button the first time. Like, yeah, take an extra 5 seconds, update yourself before I touch you, because if you do it in the middle, I'm not going to be happy.
And that's fine, but like I feel like that's annoyance for me, because like I said, I intentionally wanted to seek out all of my updates for all my things out of the gate, and if every application is doing their own individual update, that defeated my purpose, Yep. Yeah, because I'm going to get smacked in the face everything I open at that point.
Yeah. Discord.
Yeah, that's a bad one too. Yeah.
Every time the guy spins, and I'm like, come on.
Yeah, buddy. I just want to send Leo a message.
Yeah, exactly. At least when he spins now, he looks kind of like Frankenstein for Spooky Month, so that's cool. Yeah, I guess. So what do you think about this? Because I think he's right.
Why they look that way? It's familiar.
Why they all kind of look like Windows.
People are comfy. People are comfy with that, and they don't want to change.
That's what it is. It's a friction thing.
It doesn't have to be exact, and there are enough nuanced differences, I feel like, that it isn't Windows anymore, and you can tell, but it's close enough that you can navigate your way without a whole lot of guidance. And I feel like that's the secret sauce right there. Is if it's
about friction, how much it hurts to start.
Yep. If it's intuitive, it'll latch on, and people can hang on to it for long term.
Yeah, because I feel like this happens a lot in distro hopping too. Like when you move from Linux to Linux, it's that first few minutes that really makes or breaks it.
Yeah, oftentimes that the cover does matter on the book.
Yeah, kind of. You spend that first 5 minutes and you're like, okay, I could get along with this, and then you're way much more likely to continue on with it than if that first 5 minutes feels terrible.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times that's exactly what it is. It's like, well, it's got a familiar Windows feel tinge to it, but the desktop environments, I don't think there's a single one besides that really actively prevent you from trying to move things around. Like, the top thing goes on the bottom and the left thing goes on the right.
Everybody's got their own flavor to that too.
Exactly. So, yeah. There's a familiarity to it. I think that's super important.
Yep. Yeah, it just keeps people engaged, I think, is the end thing.
Don't want to scare them off too soon.
Now, listen, there are some that do bring out a lot of difference in a way, right? And we've used them. So Elementary, I would say, is significant difference.
But that's lowering the friction from Mac OS.
In a way, I don't know. It doesn't feel I suppose they take some elements from there, but it's different, just the same.
Mm-hmm. It is.
But they're not the only ones. Like, so if KOS, chaos, as you like to refer to it.
It is a little chaotic.
That's different, but it's got some familiarity. MX Linux, they're a little different. And some of that's just the arrangement of where things are located, but I don't know, they just got some different tools in different places, and it operates a little strangely. So
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some that do bring some differences as well, and they're still popular.
Yeah. Those are interesting. I like those.
I do too. So Nate brings this on Telegram. He says, "May I contribute to your soapbox? Just a little bit."
Yeah, this one's coming from our previous topic episode where both of us ended up on a soapbox for various reasons.
We did.
But I think this one was specifically to, was this your soapbox, Dan, about Wayland, or was this
my
mine?
soapbox.
That's what I thought.
I take some credit here.
Okay.
But in a good way. It says, I have been running Wayland on my primary display server on my framework laptop with a 13th Gen i7. I have to use fractional scaling, and Leo's spoken to this a little bit, for things to look right between the built-in monitor and my external monitors. Literally, a month ago, the screen capture tool was a bit ropey, but it is truly fantastic today. The only thing that gives me a little bit of trouble right now that inhibits my ability to work is Audacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that needs some work. Anyway, there are so many cool features that Wayland gives you that X11 didn't give you. I think people would be less hesitant to use Wayland if it was just called X12. This laughing emoji. and maybe that's it. It's too far,
It was about branding.
Too far. I don't know.
Terrible. We're terrible about advertising stuff, man.
Linux and open source, they have some of the worst names for things out there. It's just kind of absolutely terrible. But Wayland is actually not a terrible name. That's maybe one of the better ones.
I think the name is good, but it was the delivery.
Right.
But I really do feel like calling it X12 would have gone over at least slightly better with a good number of folk had they done that.
You mean the Greybeards?
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially. That could have an impact. But I mean, I think we've harped on Nate's points a couple times. So I mean, yeah, he's it's good. I'm glad it's working for him, and I look forward to the applications that aren't working well to get some work done on them, and maybe hopefully work well soon. And it seems like it is.
Yeah, slowly but surely things are coming over to the Wayland side, and I think there are. I think John Andersen had mentioned the PreSonus stuff, which gave rise to the Focusrite stuff, and these are audio interfaces that I believe the PreSonus guys. Yeah, so I believe the PreSonus guys were just like, yeah, we're not
Only
doing
Wayland.
X. We're just doing the Wayland thing. So that's. Yeah, I think the message is getting across, though, and I think people that are going to be relying on X for the next, 5, 10 plus years are going to be a little sad because a lot of the software is not going to go backwards. The software can go forwards because X Wayland, but it's not going to work the other way around, and that's not going to be good for people trying to hang on as long as they can to X.
They're putting just enough development into that to keep it going, to hang on for the transition, essentially, is what it's amounting to. Because you look at a lot of the work that's being done. I did look at some of the commits that are happening over there in Xorg, and a lot of them are X Wayland. So it is just for that compatibility bit, just to string that along a little further. Until everything gets there. And you do need to do that. I understand that you've got to transition somehow.
Yeah, I feel like X will never really die. I feel like X Wayland will allow X to continue on into perpetuity because there's going to be a way. And yeah, I really do think that there are going to be people that are just like, we're never going to leave X. So what they're going to end up
it's
doing.
It's going to be a legacy thing, and it'll stop getting features. And people that are over there, they'll be fine with just the legacy things.
Right. And that's exactly what I'm getting at, that what they're going to end up doing is they're going to stop coding for X, and they're going to start coding for X Wayland. But that's going to happen more and more for those that just don't want to abandon the code base, or at least the display side of the code base, and move over to Wayland. They're just going to support X Wayland. And that'll be the best of both worlds. I can be on Wayland, but I can still not have to throw away some of my code base, and we're going to be good to go.
At least keep the applications on. Some of those legacy applications can continue on forward, which is, they may never see a bunch of changes, and there may not be a reason to do a bunch of changes to them.
You know how I know this though is Windows.
Mm-hmm.
There are still some ugly looking apps on Windows 11 that should have died in Windows 98.
You could just dive into some of the menus a little deeper, and there's stuff that's internal to Windows that they haven't ported over.
Yeah. Explorer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Poor Internet Explorer. I mean, it was the top dog, and then now it's just absolutely trashed in every corner of the internet. Poor guy. Poor guy.
Yeah, I don't feel too bad.
So, speaking of John Andersen gave us a little bit of feedback, and I think we're gonna agree with him. He said, I say you lock your Lemmy registration to only those who contribute on Patreon. Yeah. I think we agree.
I think that's an interesting stance. Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got some people that are legacy that are, well, we're going to call them grandfathered in here.
And legacy users.
But yeah, they're contributors. I feel like some of them definitely are Patreon members. I'd have to look, exactly to double check on all that. So everybody that's there, you get to stay. You're lucky you. And I feel like, patrons. You get first dibs on a user account if you feel like that's something you need or want or whatever. Let us know.
So if you want to be on Lemmy, and more importantly, you want to rep lemmy.linuxuserspace.show on that username of yours, let us know. Because was it the last episode or was it the live stream?
It was the last episode. Like I said, that email thing is pretty much non-functional. But running an email server is no fun, and I really don't want to do that. So rather than go out there and get all the bits and bobs that need to happen for that, we could probably handle that offline in another way.
Yeah. Email us regular if you just have to do email.
If you have to.
Because we don't manage that email server.
That's right.
But speaking of email server, make sure if you're trying to get in contact with us and you want to do it over email, that is contact@linuxuserspace.show. And all the other links, all the stuff that we've talked about so far and all the stuff that we're going to talk about and close out the show with, you can find that at linuxuserspace.show. Click on the episode. The cool thumbnails are there. That cool CD logo thing that we made is there. It's all there. So go check that out. And of course, you can find us all over the other parts of the web as well.
Absolutely. All right, first up in the focus sessions, this is the community focus.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I want everybody to go check out Jeff's YouTube channel. No.
Wait, Jeff?
Not that Jeff.
Oh, okay.
Jeff from Craft Computing. So I know Leo's been doing some Proxmox stuff, and if you're into that sort of thing, this is a great channel to check. So Jeff doesn't do totally exclusively Linux stuff, but I think what he does is pretty fantastic. And he even throws in a little BSD stuff. Like he does some true NAS type things, and he goes over that, and he talks about how, he's got all of his home lab type stuff set up. And, I think he's got some great, well-rounded technology solutions, and he usually caps out his show with a great brew at the end. So, and Leo's is empty, so maybe.
I know. Yeah. I need a refill, but we got to close out the show, I guess. So
we do.
But I do have to say, though, Jeff's coverage of the Zima board.
Oh, yes. Those things are fantastic. Yeah. I really want one of those.
He's got a lot of cool newer stuff, but I'm still stuck on the Zima board thing. Just because I really, 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 really want one. But it's a x86 board, right? And it's really hurting me because I've been trying to go all ARM, or at least all ARM on the server side for a long time. And then he comes up with this video about the Zima board. It's hard.
It is hard. It's hard to resist. That's what it is. It's hard to resist.
Life is hard. Yeah. So I really do appreciate the coverage on that because and the price is pretty good too. I mean,
those
for a fully
nice.
Decked out, everything you need Raspberry Pi. I mean, you're starting to get close.
You're in the hundreds of dollars. maybe not
Yeah.
$200s, but hundreds of dollars.
Right, but the lower end Zima board was like mid 100.
It's about
or something.
$100.
So,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I have $100
Yeah.
that I'm willing to waste on tech stuff.
Oh, geez, all the time. Yeah.
I know these Raspberry Pis don't hurry up because I'm waiting for a Raspberry Pi 5. If they do not hurry up,
I think
Jeff's gonna win.
Somebody said they were shipping. I saw today. They had received their Raspberry Pi 5. So.
Oh,
I feel like
wait,
soonish?
like a non-commercial partnery person, like regular guy.
Yeah, I think so. They'd done a pre-order potentially someplace.
Whoa.
I'm not sure where that was exactly, but they said they'd taken delivery of their 5. So I think they're they're starting to roll out and they're starting to ship, depending on your source, of course.
Okay, so what I want to be able to do is I want to go to a store that obviously carries Raspberry Pi and pick one up. That's what I want.
I think so. There were some micro centers that had them in stock locally at places. So, you've got that somewhat in your area.
I will drive. Because look, there's good food over there.
Oh.
There's lots to do over there. And there's a micro center with Raspberry Pis over there. That's the most important part. And so, okay. We're getting it down to the wire here.
We are.
You know what they need? Is a Raspberry Pi with multiple NICs. I would buy many.
They've got the USB-C things, and they've got the PCI Express, header stuff now, and you
get a full gig on that?
I bet you would. Yeah, sure. I bet you would. Because they don't have them out yet, but they've got like the NVMe or M2 hats that they're coming up with based on the little PCI header stuff. And so I would imagine a NIC would work just as well.
You had mentioned, I think early on when we were talking about the Raspberry Pi 5 that they all need active cooling.
Yeah, they don't need it. You need it. You need a heat sink at a minimum. But if you're going to get any sort of performance out of them, you probably want some active cooling.
What if I just get a really big heatsink?
Maybe. Jeff, the other Jeff, did talk about this, and he said, if you're going to do that, you probably really want to leave it out of a case. You don't want it confined and you want the natural airflow at least to go across it. Although you may not get the same performance, you're going to get some okay performance. It does thermal throttle, but it kind of depends. Okay. We'll see. I think your mileage could vary a little bit there.
If I can get my hands on all the equipment to do that stuff, I might try to do some weird network testing or something. But we have some network testing to do. There's still network testing weird.
I still got that little
diddly doos.
Unfortunately, I've not done anything with it. It's still sitting right here.
It's because we haven't queued up the episode for it.
That's true.
Because I want to do an IP fire history is really what needs to happen.
We were kind of saving that one for a little bit. Yeah, we were.
Yeah, exactly. And that time is when me and Dan have time, and that is never. So it's hard to do. But we'll get there.
But hey, you take some time, everybody, and go check out Craft Computing on the YouTube. There's some great videos there. And you'll find ways to kill your time later on as well, I'm sure.
All right, so the last thing we're going to talk about then is one more focus.
Absolutely.
The Gentoo Focus. So we got to recap what we did on this last live stream, and it wasn't a whole heck of a lot, and it was extremely surprising. Because
that was a good thing that we didn't do a whole heck of a lot, because we'd done a whole bunch of prep work before that.
Yeah. And I think that's what it was, right? Like all that prep work was front loaded. And so we had selected in a previous live stream, we had selected the GNOME profile, which prepped our system. I was unprepared for this. I thought it was going to do the whole GNOME thing. It didn't do the whole GNOME thing. But it prepped our system for GNOME, gave us a few extra flags to throw in there. And then in this last live stream, so our current situation is now that we installed GNOME-based GNOME, which is the GNOME package, the meta package that brings in all the GNOME bits. and compiled all that.
Yep.
And in this last live stream, all we really did was we wired it up.
Yep.
Now, Dan, you were pretty convinced that I could just start it up.
I was close. I wasn't even looking at the pages. I was just kind of like, let's give it a try, see what happens. And it was close. Like, we were really close.
I was skeptical, but I was like, you know what? Maybe it does. Maybe when you do the meta package, it does do a couple of little, but then it's Gentoo, and it doesn't really do a couple of little anythings.
But it was probably a good thing to reboot anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, so we rebooted, and really all we did was enable a couple of services on startup. I think
we just enabled the display manager, GDM.
Yeah.
And then maybe another thing or two, and it was kind of there.
That was pretty much it. It
was anticlimactic, but exciting nonetheless.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be a whole lot more involved than that. So, after the live stream, I kind of lamented not doing something cool like EIX, which had been recommended.
That has been mentioned, yes.
Yeah, by Joshua in Discord. He mentioned using EIX, which gives you much more in-depth search capabilities.
It does, yes.
And it seemed like it would also kind of take over updating and maintaining capabilities
I need to read more because I haven't had a whole lot of time myself.
I know. Well, he had only mentioned the fact that it would make searching easier, but then I started digging in, and I'm like, but this
is a pretty cool
more.
Tool. Yeah, no, it is a cool tool.
Yeah. So I don't think it will go out and if you want to merge new things, if you want to add new things to your system, I don't think it wants to do that. Yeah, but it'll certainly maintain the packages that you have there, which is really, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody that's listening to this and actually has Gentoo experience, but I'm pretty sure EIX will help you search for new stuff, and it will maintain what's already there. And yeah, so I was kind of sad that I didn't prep that a little bit better.
And we'll save that for the next live stream, though.
Well, so I want to split the time. So now looking forward a little bit, now that we have, by the way, we do have a fully functioning GNOME desktop now, which is really cool. And if you watch the live stream, you'll watch me crush the computer playing Connect 4. Because apparently that's part of the meta package you install, or when you bring in that meta package, you bring in Connect 4. And I mean,
yeah, you did pretty great. Yeah, I mean, you took it deep into the game, and it was real close, right down to the wire, and then
it sure was.
Then you pulled it out at the end. Yeah,
I wasn't sure, but man, sure won at the end. So looking forward, I think I want to split my time. I want you had mentioned keeping the VM and using it as a bit of a test bed to kind of make sure that I don't do anything dumb like I'm very prone to do. So what I think I want to do on this next live stream, I need to figure out how to get this guy, this T450S, hooked up so that I think I might just SSH into it, kind of like I did the VM, at least at the beginning.
Fair. Sure, yeah.
To get it kind of figured out, started up, some of the packages compiling and everything early on. But after that, I think I'm going to have to figure out a way to get that capture screen into here. And I think I can do that already. I have a video capture card, but I think it comes up as a webcam and it gives me some issues. So I'll figure that out. I've got let me see. Oh, crap. No, I only have a week. All right. So I'm going to try and figure that out. Lots of time.
I joke because I'm in the same boat you are.
I know. Every time we come together for this show, it's like, all right, what are we missing? So yeah, but I'm gonna get that done. Try to get that done. We might have to do that live, and that will be also fun.
Exactly. These are the things you get when you come to the live stream.
Yeah, you really get hit in the face with how unprepared I can possibly be.
Flailing around a little bit, but we end up chattering about a whole bunch of stuff with everybody.
You're right.
It's a good time.
That's what happened this last live stream. We got all the Gentoo stuff out of the way, and without anything to talk about Gentoo, we just talked. And I think
there was plenty.
That's probably what the show is really about anyway.
Absolutely.
So that's something to look forward to. More Gentoo on the next live stream. More Gentoo in between. A little bit of faffing and fiddling with this laptop to make sure that I can actually get it up on the stream in the first place. But yeah, this Gentoo thing ain't stopping anytime soon. We're gonna do a little bit of EIX figuring out on the VM. We're gonna do the preliminary work on the laptop, and hopefully don't blow away my Endeavor install.
So dual booting, even better.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna mess up, Dan. I have a feeling.
Well, I mean, backups. That's the key.
What now? I don't have those.
Oh, okay.
Mistakes, I said.
All right, that brings us to the next episode. And that's where we cover the history of XFCE. And it's a long history, folks. It'll be good. It'll be a full show.
Not as long as CDE, but
not as long, but it's still pretty good. And current day, lots of people love XFCE. Leo might not be one of them.
They sure do. They sure do.
I don't know. As you heard earlier in the show, I'm trying it out and, I'm making a go of it. So it's not so bad. I got some things. So I'll give you the rest of my thoughts on how that's going. Leo will obviously compile some history and we'll have that. And we'll see what else.
If you're on a mobile device and you're watching the video, pinch in, like get in real close. See if you can see what that looks like. That's Windows 95, my friend.
Yeah.
That is
Chicago 95.
XFCE with the Chicago 95 theme right there. That is nostalgia.
Well, I mean, XFCE can bring the nostalgia out. That's for sure. So
because it looks like it came from 1995. I agree, Dan. So I'm so glad you agree with me.
So we'll give you all the nostalgia in the next episode. That's for sure. So in between shows, you can catch us on Twitter, Mastodon, Telegram, Matrix, Discord, whatever. Give us your suggestions on our subreddit or over, on Lemmy. We've got the open forum over there. Join the conversation. Talk to us. Give us more ideas. We love them. And all the links and show notes can be found at linuxuserspace.show. All right, Leo, where can we find you?
You can always find me over on the old Mastodon. Toot at me, at Leo Chavez at mastodon.social. I'm still, until we have to pay for it, over on the Twitter too, at Leo Chavez.
Yeah, and I'm at KC2BEZ, at mastodon.social as well. And I'm at KC2BEZ on the Zitter place too. So you could hit me up over there as well. And I watch
formerly known as Twitter.
I watch them both, so whatever. All right, see you in 2 weeks when we return to the Linux user space.
Bye. Talk about the whole thorium thing. Is the thorium dino game?
Mm-hmm.
It is pretty much the same as the Chrome Dino game, but I don't actually know.
Is it as good as Vivaldia?
Actually, you know what? Hold on. Let me check. How do you... Yeah, Vivaldi game. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
The little motorcycle guy?
Yeah, it's Vivaldia. I think that's what they call it.
Oh, I said... Oh. Oh, wait, there's... What? There's missiles? Oh!
See? No, that's pretty fun, huh?
Oh. Died already. Okay, you know what? I don't want to talk about that dinosaur game anymore. I want to talk about this one. So...
There you go.
Yeah, we're going to save that one for sure. I think what we should do is work on that over a weekend and get the highest score we can and challenge everybody to beat our scores.
Yeah, I'm not so good, but I could try.
Don't worry, man. I died immediately. And that's not a joke. I'm laughing.
No, yeah, it is funny. Yes.
I fell in the first pit, dude.